Remember those school field trips, the ones that promised time travel? But then we just ended up, well, stuck at the museum.
Right.
Today, we're ditching those stuffy exhibits and actually going back in time to uncover the roots of education itself. Oh, up for it.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, then buckle up because we're about to discover that the quest for knowledge, well, it's not just about dusty textbooks. It's a journey that spans millennia and crosses, continents.
It sure does. We're talking ancient India, Greece, Egypt, China.
Whoa.
Even Mesopotamia, the OG civilization.
Okay, so we're talking like the dawn of civilization.
Exactly. And each had its own unique approach to shaping young minds, how they passed on wisdom, how they prepared the next generation for the challenges of their time,
It makes you wonder, what can we learn from these ancient cultures about education?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's fire up our metaphorical time machine here and set our coordinates for ancient India. Now imagine this for a second. You're a student, eager to learn, but instead of just classrooms and exams, you're actually living with your teacher, your guru.
The Gurukul system. This wasn't just about, absorbing facts. This was about absorbing a whole way of life.
So it was about way more than passing a pop quiz.
Right.
This was about character development, spiritual growth, almost like a mentorship that shaped your entire being.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as the ultimate apprenticeship, where the lines between education and just personal development were totally blurred. They called this vidya, which wasn't just about, accumulating knowledge. It was about embodying it, living it.
Wow, that's a completely different way of thinking about education than what we're used to.
It is.
But, okay, now picture this. You've been immersed in the Gurukul system, living and breathing your studies.
Right.
Where do you go next?
Harvard, Oxford. Well, in ancient India, you might set your sights on Nalanda or Takshashila. These were like the ancient world's, international student hubs. Imagine scholars from as far away as Greece and China.
Wait, seriously, scholars were traveling across continents for knowledge, even back then.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
It really puts our modern study abroad programs into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you realize how interconnected the world was even way back then.
Yeah, it really does.
And here's the really fascinating part. This wasn't just about earning a degree or even landing a, prestigious job. Lifelong learning. It was ingrained in their culture. It was a continuous journey of self-discovery.
So no pressure to have it all figured out by graduation then, huh?
Nope.
I kind of like their style. Speaking of style, let's jump from the serene landscapes of India to, well, let's just say things are about to get a lot more theatrical. Our next stop, ancient Greece.
Oh boy.
Think bustling city squares, passionate debates.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
And enough philosophical discourse to make your head spin.
Greece, the birthplace of democracy. And, well, let's be honest, enough drama to rival any reality TV show. This was a society where knowledge was power. And rhetoric, the art of persuasion, was highly prized.
It was like the original TED Talk stage, right?
Yeah.
But instead of PowerPoint presentations, you had philosophers in togas, captivating crowds with their eloquence and wit.
Precisely. And when it came to education, they had a word for this pursuit of, well-rounded excellence, paideia. And it wasn't just about book smarts, it was about developing the whole person.
Okay, so not just acing your exams, but also crushing it on the athletic field.
Yes.
And maybe composing an epic poem or two.
You got it. They firmly believed that physical prowess, artistic expression, intellectual development, it all went hand in hand. Sound familiar? This is the foundation of what we know today as a liberal arts education.
Wow, it's incredible to think that some of the educational principles we value today, they have their roots in these ancient civilizations. Okay, so imagine yourself as a young student in ancient Greece. You're being schooled in paideia.
Right. But to really get ahead in this world of political maneuvering and, fierce debates, you need an edge, right?
Right. Enter the sophists. These are like the celebrity tutors of their time, renowned for their persuasive skills and their ability to, shall we say, prepare young minds for the cutthroat world of Athenian politics.
I bet those guys could talk their way out of any parking ticket.
Oh, I'm sure.
But seriously, their influence must have been immense. Talk about power players in the world of ideas.
Absolutely. And this era, it gave rise to some of the most influential thinkers in Western history.
Oh, yeah.
Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Their schools of philosophy philosophy. They became the ultimate think tanks, grappling with questions about ethics, knowledge, the nature of reality itself.
It's mind-blowing to think about the sheer impact these thinkers had on shaping, Western thought. Their lively debates, their groundbreaking ideas, they've left an undeniable mark on history. Speaking of leaving a mark, our next destination takes us to a civilization synonymous with grandeur and innovation. Get ready to explore the world of hieroglyphics and pyramids and the immense power of literacy in ancient Egypt.
Okay, so picture this. We're trading in our togas for linen garments and stepping into a world of, towering pyramids and intricate hieroglyphics, ancient Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
It's a place that just screams mystery and ancient wisdom, right?
Yeah, it does. And in this world, literacy, it wasn't just a skill, it was the ultimate key to power, prestige.
Because they were the only ones who could actually decipher those hieroglyphics, right?
Exactly.
Talk about job security.
Oh, yeah. They were trained in, temple schools, mastering not just the art of writing, but this vast body of knowledge. And it was essential to running an entire empire. Imagine being the keeper of the records for pharaohs and priests.
Whoa, no pressure or anything.
Right.
They must have had some serious memorization skills. Did they have ancient flashcards or something?
Well, they had papyrus scrolls, which were a bit more, shall we say, high-tech than clay tablets.
Right.
But beyond memorization, they were applying this knowledge to everything. Religious rituals, managing the Nile's floods.
It's incredible.
It was about ensuring the smooth functioning of this vast, complex civilization.
Wow, so their education was very practical, very hands-on. No wonder they built those incredible pyramids. Talk about an impressive final exam project, huh?
Precisely. Even mathematics. It was taught with a focus on, practical application. Surveying land, constructing buildings, managing resources. It was all about ensuring the smooth functioning of this vast and complex civilization.
It makes you wonder, though.
What's that?
Did everyone in ancient Egypt get to enjoy this kind of education?
That's a good question.
Or was it reserved for a select few?
That's a crucial point. While ancient Egypt, they valued learning, but access to formal education, it was largely limited to the elite. The future scribes, priests, officials. It's a reminder that even in these ancient societies, educational opportunities, they weren't always equal.
Yeah, that's very true. Good reminder that every society has its complexities. Okay, let's shift gears again. This time heading east to a land where philosophy and governance went hand in hand. Ancient China.
Oh, okay.
Think sprawling dynasties, intricate calligraphy, and a deep, reverence for wisdom.
And at the heart of their educational system, you had Confucianism, a philosophy that emphasized not just knowledge, but morality, ethics, and social harmony.
So it wasn't just about acing your history test.
Right.
It was about being a good person.
Exactly.
A responsible citizen.
Confucian texts, the Analects, they weren't just studied, they were internalized, memorized.
Yeah.
And they were used as guides for ethical conduct.
That sounds kind of intense. Imagine being quizzed by your teacher, but on how to be a better person. Talk about pressure.
Well, they did have a rather, shall we say, rigorous system for testing all that knowledge in oral development.
Okay.
Enter the imperial examination.
Oh, here we go.
A multi-day, high-stakes test that could make or break your career.
Okay, now that sounds seriously intense. This was their SATs, but a million times more pressure packed. What kind of stuff was even on this exam?
Imagine years dedicated to mastering calligraphy, poetry, those extensive Confucian classics.
Oh, wow.
All for a shot at a coveted government position.
Talk about dedication. But at least in theory, anyone could take this exam, right? It wasn't just for the wealthy and elite.
You're right. And that was revolutionary for its time. The idea that merit, not just social status, could determine your path in life. It was quite progressive, but, we should acknowledge this meritocracy. It had its limits.
Oh, okay.
Women, for example, they were largely excluded from this system.
Ah, right. It's a good point to remember. Progress, it isn't always a straight line. Speaking of taking a different path, let's journey back to where it all began, to the cradle of civilization itself, ancient Mesopotamia.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're trading those majestic pyramids and intricate scrolls for something a little different.
Yeah.
Get ready, because we are going to explore a world of clay tablets and cuneiform script.
Cuneiform.
This is the land where writing itself was a technological marvel. ancient Mesopotamia.
It's amazing to think about, right? This is where it all began. The very first cities, the first written laws, the first schools.
Wait, schools? Like actual schools with desks and homework and everything?
Well, not exactly desks and homework, like we think of them today, but they did have these places called adubas. And these were, the ancient Sumerian schools. And they were often attached to temples. And this is where scribes in training, they dedicated years to mastering the art of cuneiform writing.
Cuneiform? Those little wedge-shaped symbols that were etched into the clay?
Yes.
Talk about painstaking. What kinds of things were they learning to write?
Everything. From epic myths like the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Wow.
Imagine those storytelling sessions. Yeah. To legal codes like Hammurabi's Code, which, by the way, was surprisingly complex.
Okay.
Even addressed things like contracts and property rights.
Wow, so their curriculum was a mix of literature, law, history.
It really was.
It sounds like they were really setting a foundation for, civilization as we know it.
Exactly.
And while scribes, they were often from the elite families.
Yeah.
Some commoners, if they had exceptional abilities, they could rise up through the ranks through education.
Yes.
Taking on administrative roles, that were essential for Mesopotamian society.
Right.
It's amazing to think how far back this idea of education as a means of social mobility actually goes.
It's pretty amazing.
From the gurus of ancient India to the scribes of Mesopotamia, it's clear the pursuit of knowledge has always been a powerful force in shaping society.
It really has. And as we kind of wrap up our journey through these ancient classrooms, from those philosophical debates of Greece to the rigorous exams in China, it makes you wonder, what will future generations say about our approach to education?
That's a great question. I mean, we've come a long way from clay tablets and papyrus scrolls.
We have.
But have we really cracked the code when it comes to unlocking human potential?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Because ultimately, the legacy of education, it isn't really about the tools, is it?
It's not.
It's not even about the information itself, but about the values we choose to transmit to the next generation and, the kind of future that we want to create.
It really makes you think, what will our legacy be? What lessons will we leave on those, metaphorical clay tablets for those future generations to discover?
That's something for all of us to consider, isn't it?
It is.
If a time traveler from the distant future were to, pop up and ask you about the core values, the core values that are embedded in 21st century education, what would you even tell them?
Wow, that's a powerful thought to leave us with. I think I'm going to need some time to reflect on that one and maybe brush up on my ancient history too. Thanks for taking this incredible journey with us.
My pleasure. Anytime.